Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. In this episode, I'll be talking about QAnon theorist Marjorie Taylor Greene, a glitch in the matrix, a apparent failed dunk from Anna Kasparian on Jimmy Dore. For some reason, she hates him. We all know why, but I'll touch on it here in a second. A report from thehill.com that users organize and coordinate violent and anti-democratic efforts on these pages, but Facebook does not just allow these dangerous pages to exist on its platform. It recommends them to users, Markey wrote. And an article from thedailywire.com, CDC, schools with in-person learning have seen scant transmission of COVID-19. But before we get started, why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you'd like to contribute to the channel because you're enjoying the content, you can do so by going to notcensoredyet.com/donate. You'll find links available to crypto and fiat currency. It'll really help us grow and help us stay independent from outside influence. So let's get started. In incendiary tweet from the Democratic Coalition. This vile behavior from Rep MTG is part of the I can't even say the last part of that word if I want to keep this a child-friendly show. QAnon terrorist threat the GOP has allowed and encouraged to spread like wildfire among their voters and their elected officials. So she's unapologetically QAnon. And what I thought was really funny was when they were doing the interview circuit, with the news organizations before the Georgia runoff elections, and they were talking about Donald Trump and the narrow margin with Joe Biden, and they were like, "Hey, well, how come you're not disputing your win?" And I went in, I jumped into the wildfire, and I was like, "Why does she need to defend it? She won with 75% of the votes. Her opponent won with." Or her opponent lost with only 25% of the vote. I believe she won with like a margin of 175,000 votes. So go ahead and recount, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to find 250,000 votes for my opponent. It's just bananas that people would even bring it up and try to dunk on her because of that. So, CNN, Republican Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene repeatedly indicated support for executing prominent Democratic politicians in 2018 and 2019 before being elected to Congress. A CNN K-File review of hundreds of posts and comments from Greene's Facebook page shows. So her defense, and she even posted a defense before this article even came out, was basically saying, "Hey, I don't even manage my Facebook page. I have an intern who does that. So if the intern liked the post, I didn't support it." And I can see her point, but she needs to do a better job vetting her peeps. She needs to do a better job of vetting her crew. Greene, who represents Georgia's 14th congressional district, frequently posted far-right extremist and debunked conspiracy theories on her page, including the baseless QAnon conspiracy, which casts former President Donald Trump in an imagined battle against a sinister cabal of Democrats and celebrities who abuse children. I don't understand why they just use that one. I don't understand why they don't say things like the storm and the deep state, because if there's one thing that has been proven true in the past 4 to 5 years is that there is a bunch of Democrats and celebrities who have been abusing children and women. So it's really hard to say, whoa, it's just an imagined battle. So you can say the imagined part is that Donald Trump is the one who's leading the crusade against the cabal. I would understand that. But I would say that, maybe Donald Trump isn't an imagined crusade against, the swamp, the establishment, something about the storm. You can say so many things about QAnon, but don't say the one thing that could potentially actually awkwardly be true just because of Epstein. So whether you like it or not, Epstein did have an island where there was inappropriate things happening with children, and there was prominent Democrats and celebrities who may or may not have gone to that island because they traveled on his plane, but they weren't honest about where all the destinations were. So I would find a different thing to hang my hat on when you're trying to bust the chops of QAnon. Don't bust on the one thing that actually kind of makes a little bit of sense. Find something else. Trust the plan, the storm, the whatever that Trump is shadow government. Choose something different, friends. Choose something different, because it's just it's again, it's ridiculous. Don't pick the one thing that actually kind of makes a little bit of sense when it comes to QAnon. In one post from January 2019, Green liked a comment that said a bullet to the head would be quicker to remove House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Another post, Green liked comments about executing FBI agents who, in her eyes, were part of the deep state working against Trump. So basically, it's just her liking really just vile tweets. And so basically, again, her defense is I don't run my social media platform, and I understand that. So, as someone who is a marketing major, I understand that rich people or people who are busy, people that are busy running a campaign, don't necessarily have time to run their social media because it takes a lot of time. If I'm on Twitter, I get lost in it for 30 to 45 minutes. That's 45 minutes I could be doing something else. So she hands her phone off to somebody else. She hands the reins to her account to somebody else. And guess what? They do it. And if they make a mistake, it makes you look bad. It doesn't make the intern look bad. It makes the important person look bad. That's all it is. But definitely she needs to hire better people. Whether she liked it or not, it's definitely inappropriate. But I understand where she's coming from. But if that is the case, then she should have done a better job vetting the help. Here's a glitch in the Matrix. It's a black man holding a Confederate flag and a white man holding a Black Lives Matter flag. And I've seen this pop up a bunch on my Facebook, and people say, what does this tell you? And a bunch of people saying that basically inappropriate things towards the black person holding the Confederate flag. And I jump into the fire basically saying, what? That there's more white people in the Black Lives Matter organizations than there are black people. And people don't like that answer. And then I look up every every demographic breakdown of all these riots and of all the meetings and of all the things that are going on with Black Lives Matter, and it always turns out that there's more white people involved. So I guess that's good. White people should want to participate in the change of it, but it seems like the white people involved in these organizations seem to be a little more radicalized. They seem to be the ones who like to stir the pot, like to cause trouble. So I would just keep an eye out on that, because every time I see weird things happening, when they shoot the videos of what's happening at the protests, which turn into riots, it usually ends up just being the white people at the end are the ones who are causing the trouble. So keep your eye out on that. So here's the thing from Anna Kasparian. Basically, Jimmy Dore posted a tweet. I interviewed a member of the Boogaloo Boys. I was completely floored when he said he is pro LGBTQ, pro Black Lives Matter, anti police brutality, anti racism, anti ICE, anti war. WTF. Radicalized Michigan anarchist seeks unity with the left, and it's basically his a link to his YouTube channel. And then Anna Kasparian basically posts just headlines. Far-right Boogaloo Boys linked to the killing of California law officers and other violence. In the wake of killing of 2 law enforcement officers in Northern California, more attention is being directed to the Boogaloo movement, a far-right fringe group that has been tied to violence around the country. And then she also posts a thing to far-right Boogaloo Boys linked to the killing of same thing, California law officers, Whitmer conspiracy allegations tied to the Boogaloo movement. So I basically dunked back on her. Basically, I just rejected it, denied it from the rim, basically stating, hey, that guy didn't even like Trump. He was like, we don't like Trump. Trump is the enemy. Don't you understand? Everybody in the government is your enemy. I think I'm still new to Twitter, trying to figure out how to basically get all this, to basically see where all the comments are. But here we go. Yeah, Trump is not your friend, dude. It amazes me that people actually believe that when he's shown over and over and over again that he is a tyrant. Every single person that works for the government is your enemy, dude. Not far right wing, just anarchists. That was my response. But everybody are saying, "Oh my goodness, oh, you're a queen. Oh my goodness, you're dunking on Jimmy Dore." Prosecutors, 3 men plotted to terrorize Vegas protests. They love BLM except when they plot an attack on them while demonstrating. That's what she said. My response, did you even read the article? The informant said that during a May 27 meeting, Partial and Loomis discussed causing an incident to incite chaos and possibly a riot in response to the death of a suspect, a reference to Floyd. Loomis stated he wanted to firebomb a power substation, according to the informant to the criminal complaint. The informant stated that Partial and Loomis's idea behind the explosion was hopefully to create civil unrest and rioting throughout Las Vegas. And basically, somebody kept talking. They want a civil war. They don't care how they get it. And I was like, they just want anarchy. They don't care how they get the anarchy. Comprehensive reporting on the Boog movement started on 4chan, basically about guns, violence, and civil war over the past decade. And then I quoted from that as well. If there was ever a time for the boys to stand in solidarity with all free men and women in this country, it is now, they added. This is not a race issue. For far too long, we have allowed them to murder us in our homes and in the streets. We need to stand with the people of Minneapolis. We need to support them in this protest against a system that allows police brutality to go unchecked. So she keeps believing she's dunking on these people. And or she thinks she's dunking on Jimmy Dore. She's not even reading what's going on. So Jimmy Dore is right. A lot of the Boogaloo. So you'll have racist anarchists. You'll have anti-LGBTQ anarchists. You'll have what inserts whatever thing, whatever bigoted thing there. But what anarchists aren't, they're not pro-ICE. ICE is a government institution, so they are anti-ICE by the very definition of being anarchists. They are anti-war. They don't believe that the government should be attacking other governments because there shouldn't be a military. It should just be militias. If we need to fight, we have a militia. That's what the Second Amendment's for. That's why they're anarchists. They're pro Black Lives Matter. They're anti police brutality. A lot of them believe that police are criminals, that the police shouldn't exist. They're pro LGBTQ because they're anarchists. They don't believe that there should be legislation that says, oh, well, you can't be gay or you can't be married if you're gay. You can't serve in the military. Well, they also don't believe that there should be a standing army. So all of the LGBTQ stuff, that makes sense as well, because guess what? As an anarchist, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. And that's how we get along. It's a violent, polite society because you resolve any conflicts with equal force, right? So basically the argument of an armed society is a polite society, because if everybody has a gun, right, and somebody tries to mug somebody else and then that person gets shot, guess what? That society then immediately becomes calm again because everybody knows, hey, it does not need to escalate from here. We dealt with the threat with equal force. We're going to keep carrying on. That is anarchy. You don't need the police to basically ratchet up the temperature of what's going on. So it was just a failed dunk attempt. I don't understand how, I guess, the Young Turks are considered a big, a thinking organization, because obviously if you don't take the time to read the article and you just read the headline, of course, the headline is going to be written for clickbaits. You actually need to read the content in the article to understand what's going on, because all you have to do is look into the article and quote, basically just do what I did and just take out a paragraph and go, hey, this completely disproves what you're trying to say. Maybe you should apologize to Jimmy Dore. So jumping over to the Hill, Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts on Tuesday sent a letter to Facebook questioning the social media giant over reports that it has continued to recommend political groups to users, despite top executives complaining the platform would stop doing so. The senator said that the recommendations carry a risk of growing dangerous groups that are breeding grounds for hate, echo chambers of misinformation, and venues for coordination of violence. Markey underscored his push for Facebook to follow through on its commitment to stop recommending political groups by noting that some groups on the platform were used to plan the deadly insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. So why is Facebook still on Apple and Google Play, especially if they're still recommending these violent, these groups that are promoting violence? I don't understand. I thought Parler had everything stripped away from them. What's going on? Why is Facebook the exception? Why is it not the norm? If the norm is completely deplatforming, slapping duct tape on like the smiley face logo of not censored yet, why is Facebook allowed to do this? The same question I have about Twitter with them peddling in illegal images of children floating around the Twitter sphere. Users organize and coordinate violent and anti-democratic efforts on these pages, but Facebook does not just allow these dangerous pages to exist on its platform, it recommends them to users. So it's not just that they have it, they actually, Facebook invites people to those. They say, hey, you will like this page. Maybe you should like this page. That's bananas, because I'm pretty sure Parler doesn't even have groups. It's just people talking, and you just have, it's kind of like Twitter. I'm not sure if Twitter has groups. Again, I'm new to Twitter. I've only had it for a couple weeks. But Parler, from my understanding, it was just like Twitter in its infancy. So I don't understand how it's okay when Facebook does it, and they're far more mature, and they're basically far more evolved, right? So they have all these things where you can kind of sneak in into a locked group, and then you can have these conversations. They have moderators who go into it, but people from the outside don't really know what's going on in those Facebook groups. Unfortunately, it appears that Facebook has failed to keep commitments on this topic that you made to me, other members of Congress, and your users. You and your senior Facebook officials have committed and reiterated your commitment to stop your platform's practice of recommending political groups. So he's basically putting them on blast. He's like, hey, do what you told us you were going to do, or else. And so this is my problem with the censorship. This is my problem with all of this stuff. So Facebook knew they were facing heat. Facebook is starting to basically ban left-wing and right-wing groups, right? And the reason why is you have Democrat lawmakers saying, if you don't play ball, we are going to regulate you to death. And then you have other Democrat lawmakers, mainly the progressives, going, you need to shut that voice up. You need to silence that person. You need to deplatform that person. You need to demonetize this channel, blah, blah, blah. And basically, in order to try to get in the Democrats' good graces, Facebook goes, okay, please don't regulate us into bankruptcy. We'll do what you say. Tell us who to silence, and we'll silence those groups. And that's my problem with censorship. Because basically, yes, it's a private business, right? But it's not a private business when the government tells them, or when, you have a politician that says that person shouldn't have a voice anymore. And then, or basically you had Parler was spreading bad content, and then 2 days later they were dropped by Apple, Google Play, and AWS. That definitely seems like they all colluded with Democrat lawmakers to oust Parler from everything. And I had a Parler account. I didn't really use it, but I just had it just in case things went bananas. Plus, I wanted to secure my username because, why not? Jumping over the Daily Wire, CDC, schools with in-person learning have seen scant transmission of COVID-19. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in a paper published on Tuesday, concluded that schools operating in-person learning with appropriate antiviral precautions have seen only scant transmission of the virus, according to a number of studies conducted in districts across the country. The news could pave the way for schools to reopen to in-person learning if certain guidelines are followed through CDC. Though CDC says that riskier activities associated with in-school education, like organized indoor athletic events, may have to wait a bit longer. That makes sense. Don't play sweaty basketball. Don't do that. Don't play indoor football. No indoor wrestling. Because I think there was actually an outbreak of outbreak of COVID from a wrestling event in Florida. The CDC team reviewed data from studies in the United States and abroad and found the experience in schools different from nursing homes and high-density work sites where rapid spread had occurred, the Washington Post reported Tuesday. The review, which echoes the conclusions of other researchers, come as many school districts continue to wrestle with whether and how to reopen schools, and as President Biden makes a return to in-person learning one of his top pandemic-related priorities. The CDC appears to have found that schools fare better when they observe some of the antiviral precautions practiced in other public spaces like big box retail stores. The agency suggests students wear masks, while indoors and observe strict social distancing. So the big thing is kids don't spread it as much as adults. It has to do with their immune system, from what I'm told. It's their immune system isn't as mature, so it doesn't. So the problem with COVID-19 in adults, it's your immune system's mature and basically it acts sort of like the Kawasaki disease in kids, where it's you basically have a flare up in your immune system and it starts attacking your lungs and your heart and your internal organs, right? And that's where a lot of people end up with their pneumonia and dying. But kids, their immune system isn't developed enough yet. So their immune system doesn't overreact to COVID 19. That's why they can kick it in just a few days. And that's also why they don't spread it as much. But that's what I've been told. That's what I've read. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a doctor. If you have questions about it, talk to your doctor about it. But I do know that the social implications of not going to school is extremely important. Like people need to address this issue. The emotional growth of these students have been stunted for having not been in school for nearly a year, and it needs to be addressed. Someone needs to take responsibility. Trump was trying to do this for the last 6 months, and people were calling him crazy. They said he wanted to murder children. And now that school districts and cities and states are basically going, hey, look, friends, I understand, teachers, that you believe you're going to be at risk, but students are literally killing themselves. Students' mental health is declining. We need to get them back in the classroom because these kids are fragile. And it's not fragile as in an insult. It's like I said yesterday, kids don't have the mental strength. They don't have the rigidity. They don't have support structures in their mind to basically go, okay, I can sit alone in a room for a week and not lose my mind. If a little kid did that, they would go bananas. So it's something to keep in mind. And that's why we need to send the kids back to school, because you can't run the risk of basically suffering emotional and mental harm from not being social. Again, we are social creatures as humans. As much as adults, you have your crabs and your hermits who just basically stay in a log cabin in the woods and you never see anybody. That's fine. You're an adult. You can do that. You have a purpose being out in the woods. But as a little kid, you need to interact with other people. And a lot of times you need to interact with other people outside of your family. So it's something to keep in mind. I think we need to open the schools. It's extremely important. I send my daughter to private school for that very reason. I sent her to a private Christian school because at the time the public schools weren't open. It was all online, and I know my daughter wouldn't have enjoyed it. She wouldn't have paid attention just sitting on the tablet. She would have rather watched YouTube. She would have rather have played with the dog. She would not want to sit around for hours a day being on a tablet watching somebody teach. That's not what kids want to do. Kids want to go to school, like it or not. Kids want to go to school. Kids want to learn. Kids want to see their friends. And that's what's important. And if teachers believe they're at risk, then we need to find college educated people who may not have a job right now, who could be substitute teachers. And basically, what you could do, you can have your substitute teachers come in, and then you can have a webcam in the classroom with the actual teacher watching the class, making sure that there's no funny stuff happening. And then basically the teacher is there giving the class virtually, right? So with a projector, the teacher is giving the class. So it's like a reverse Zoom class. So you have your 20 kids all wearing their masks, and you have your one teacher being beamed into the class. And then if any of the students need help, then you have your college educated person to help them with whatever they're working on. I believe that would be a good compromise that would protect the teachers and then allow those people to get paid. If they get paid 15 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour, that's better than not getting paid at all if they had lost their job due to COVID. But hey, that's my $1 million idea. If someone can implement that, why don't you give me a kickback? Because I would love that. But that's going to be it for now. I'm going to do more research. I'll drop another video in a couple hours. See y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.